Hey folks, this is JR with DIY Prepper. Welcome to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about the top 10 types of items that preppers should be stockpiling. And there's a difference between items that you should have and then items you should be stockpiling. So a couple examples of items that you should have are things like a Dutch oven, a propane heater. If you have one or two of those, then you're going to be good to go. But on the other hand, there's items that you should have quite a few of, like rice. You should have several bags of rice. Canned goods, you need a whole bunch of cans. Water, you need bunches of bottled water, several water containers, whatever the case is. So the purpose of this video is going to be talking about things that you should be stacking deep. But before we get too deep into the video, if this is your first time to the channel, welcome. I'm glad you found me. And if you've been by here before, welcome back. If you haven't done so already, if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, the notification bell, that would be awesome. And if there's any point in the video where you're like, hey, I kind of like the content, maybe there's something you haven't thought of before, go ahead and hit that like button as well. So let's get started. The first type of item that preppers should be stockpiling is anything that has to do with food. And that can mean things like dried beans, dried rice, dried pasta, because those have a long shelf life to begin with. If you put them in Mylar with oxygen absorbers, seal them up, then they can store for probably 20-25 years, maybe more. And then one thing a lot of preppers forget that they should be stocking up on are things like spices, stuff to make your food actually taste like something you would want to eat. And then salt also. Salt has a bunch of different survival uses. Back in the old days, way before we had refrigerators and stuff, salt was even used to help preserve food. And then there's honey. And be sure you get raw, unfiltered honey because other types won't have as long of a shelf life as that will. And raw and unfiltered honey will last basically forever. There have been stories of people taking like jars of honey out of like tombs in Egypt and it's still edible. So honey's a good thing to keep on hand. Then there's also other types of foods, things like canned goods. Those will store for a while. If you get a can rotator, you can have a first in, first out type of thing, so where you don't even have to think about rotating. And then also freeze-dried foods. Those are great just because you can set them in your closet, forget about them until you need them, and you're not tempted to eat your survival food supply. Then another thing a lot of preppers forget to stock up on is things like dog food. You want to make sure that your animals are taken care of, and if you have a baby, especially like a younger infant, then you need to have formula in stock for them and other types of food that they can eat because they're not like us. We can go out, we can eat pretty much anything that's edible, but their little bodies, they can't process a lot of those things yet, and they just won't eat certain things. And if you're in a situation where maybe you're not using formula normally, you're breastfeeding, it's still a good idea to have formula on hand because something could happen to you, something could happen to the mom if you're a dad watching this, and mama might not be able to produce milk. So it's a good idea to have several cans of formula. One of the saddest things I remember from last year was a story about a dad looking at the baby formula aisle crying because there was no formula for his kid. That was really depressing. Don't get caught in a situation like that. And then even beyond stuff that you can eat, there's other food-related items that are good to stock up on. One of them is going to be something like a manual can opener because those things are mechanical devices. They do break, so it's a good idea to have maybe 3 or 4 of them set aside so that you'll be able to open your cans without having to do the whole rub on the concrete method, pop the top open, which is just a pain in the butt. Then also think about things that you can use to replenish your food supply if it's like a really long-term emergency. Stuff like seed banks are good. They take a while to get started, and you should have some sort of survival garden already before you use those because there is a learning curve. I did an entire video over it. You can see that up there. I think that's the side the cards are on. But anyway, having like a collection of seeds, even if it's not like a survival seed bank, that's a good idea. And then also like animal traps. You can find them places like sporting goods stores, home and ranch stores, and you can buy them to trap small animals. You can trap squirrels in them, and believe it or not, if you fry squirrel, it actually does taste just like chicken. I know that's a cliche and it's overused all the time, but that one is totally true. The second type of item that preppers should be stockpiling is anything to do with water. Reason why is water is one of the most important parts of our everyday life, and it would be one of the most important things to help keep us going in a survival situation. It helps keep our bodies going, helps keep us hydrated, and then it can also keep us and our surroundings clean and helping prevent disease and things like that. And if you're a new prepper, a great place to start is bottled water. And even if you're not a new prepper, just because it's very easy to store, it's easy to take with you if you have to bug out. And like I said, if you're new, all you got to do is, like, after this video, go pick up like 3 or 4 40 packs and you're way better off than you are right now. And then kind of along those lines, a little bit more advanced is things like bulk water storage containers. And depending on how much room that you have to store water, you have a lot of different options. If, say, you live in a cram-packed house or a small apartment, then you can get things like the Reliance Aquatainer. I think it's either Water Bricks or Aqua Bricks. I can't remember off the top of my head. But they take up very little space. Some of them, depending on the design, you can even put under the bed. Not all of them. Some of them might leak. But if that's something that you want to do, just look for the ones that are specifically designed for that. And then if you have like either a home or like a large amount of property, then there's water storage tanks that you can integrate into a rainwater harvesting system, as well as just like maybe like 1,000-gallon tanks or more that you can stick out in the yard, and some you can even bury. Just, you know, check and make sure that it is rated for that. Then also buckets. Buckets are good. You can use those for storing water last ditch. Just make sure that you get lids to keep like mosquitoes and stuff like that at. You don't want to be like transporting it all over the place necessarily, but you fill it up during the like first part of an emergency, put the lid on, stick it in your shower. Then you're not going to have to worry about that water getting contaminated by bugs and other different types of things. It's still a good idea to filter it, but buckets have a ton of survival uses, and one of them is water storage. Then also there's water filters. Let's say you have a Berkey water purifier. Go ahead and pick up some extra black Berkey filtering elements. If you have a Sawyer, go ahead and pick up a couple extras. You can put them in kits, have some in case 1 or 2 breaks, or you're concerned maybe it's not working as well anymore, and you should be set. The third type of item that preppers should be stockpiling are any sort of fuel source that they may need, and the most obvious one is gasoline or petrol if you're in other parts of the world. Just get you some gas cans, fill those up. That'll help you get further out of town if you need to. If you have a gas generator, you can use it to help keep that running. And then also stuff like propane. Propane can be used for a lot of different things. Also, if you have any small appliances that use those 1-pound bottles, be sure to stock up on those also. Then along those same lines, for like camp stoves, butane's a good thing to have in stock. If you have oil lamps, be sure to get lamp oil for those. Kerosene, if you have like a kerosene heater. Candles are good to stock up on. I know it's not really like a fuel source necessarily, but you can use it to provide small amounts of heat and also to heat up things like soup, stuff like that. Then there's a couple other different things that are good to have, stuff like denatured alcohol if you have any of those spirit burners. Lighters are always good to have. You're going to need to light your candles and your grills and stuff like that somehow, so get you some of those nice long lighters. And then also charcoal. If you're wanting to grill outside and it's safe to do so, maybe it's not to the point yet where people are going hungry, then you can stock some charcoal, use that, and enjoy a nice grilled meal before everything in your freezer ruins. The fourth type of item that preppers should be stocking up on are different kinds of batteries. And the most basic example of that is going to be your normal AA and AAA that most common household devices run on. And it's a good idea to have some of those in rechargeable variants as well. I like Inteloops. A lot of people have had good luck with other brands also. But a good way to get batteries is to buy the little cheapy flashlights like at, Walmart, dollar store, or whatever. They're not great flashlights. And I'm not saying they should be your primary light. You should have 3 or 4 good flashlights also. But the good thing about the cheapies is you can put them in almost every room of the house, hidden in a drawer, and they come with batteries a lot of the time. Just be sure you change them out because they'll go out. They're not the best batteries, but they have them. And let's say you're in the bathroom and that's when the power goes out. It's really nice to have a flashlight in the drawer next to the commode. That can make your life a whole lot easier. Also, if you have things like power tools, stock up on those batteries as well, because power tools, it's not just like drills and saws anymore. They have things like lights, and I've went over those in the lighting options for preppers video. I'll put a card for that also. But point is, if you have power tools, stock those batteries also, because they could come in handy. And then there's specialty batteries. Maybe you have like walkie-talkies or something like that that use a very specific type of battery pack and they're replaceable. Go ahead and pick up some extras of those as well, because batteries, they don't last forever, and you don't want to rely on something and then not have the stuff that you need to keep that going throughout the duration of however long you may need it. The fifth type of item that preppers should be stocking up on is anything to do with medicine or medical gear. And the easiest place to start with that is over-the-counter meds. Things like cold medications, flu medications, stuff for stomach bugs, allergies, headaches, fevers, pain reducers. Go ahead and get you a nice stock of those. And then also kind of in the same realm as that is going to be electrolyte solutions, things like Pedialyte, because the worst thing that can happen to your body as the result of something gastrointestinal is the dehydration. Having some electrolyte solutions will allow you to replenish those fluids so that your body isn't any worse off than what it needs to be. Then also prescription medications, if you have those, talk to your doctor, see how maybe you can develop maybe a small stock of those. It's probably going to be a lot easier if you don't have anything really controlled like behavior modifiers, but just talk to your doctor, see what you can do about that. Then also think about stuff like first aid. You're going to need antiseptics. You don't want like small little boo-boos getting infected and then you keeling over as a result of that. Watch After Armageddon. It's a History Channel special, and you'll see what I mean. That is an awesome like docudrama type thing. But anyway, so stuff like isopropyl alcohol, povidone iodine, hydrogen peroxide, those are all good to have on hand. Then also, you're going to need things like bandages and braces, band-aids, gauze, larger sterile pads for covering larger areas. Learn how to suture, get the stuff that you need for that. And then lastly, I'm going to go ahead and put this in the medical category, are things like masks. Good masks, not the little like fabricy things that we've been running around with. N95 or better. If you can find like maybe a mask that has like a half face cover and then like replaceable cartridges, I love those. I have one that I use to mow the yard, sand and stuff like that. It's just really good to have. It doesn't do much to catch stuff coming out of you, but it'll catch way more stuff trying to come into you than basically anything except maybe a gas mask. The sixth type of item that preppers should be stockpiling are personal care items. And those are things like soap and shampoo, and then hand sanitizer. Those can help keep you clean, keep your hygiene good so that you don't get sick from the little nasty bugs. And then also, don't forget about stuff for your teeth, toothbrush, toothpaste, mouthwash. It's another good use for hydrogen peroxide. You can use it as a mouthwash. If you are a lady or have ladies living with you, then feminine hygiene products are something that you need to stockpile as well. And then also stuff like insecticides. You don't really think of that as a personal care item, but it can help keep things like mosquitoes and other nasty little annoying insects away from you so that you don't catch their diseases. And kind of closing out the personal care item category, you want to have a good selection of clothing for all seasons. Have enough that where you can make different kits and stuff to maybe keep in your car during certain times of year so that if maybe you have to walk a little ways during the winter, you're not going to freeze to death or have to do so wearing dress shoes or high heels, whatever the case may be. And then also, if you have babies, be sure that you stock up on diapers. And I know that they're expensive. I know that they take up a ton of room. Believe me, I know. I have a 2-year-old. We had like the great mountain of diapers. But you don't really want to end up in a situation where you're cutting up t-shirts, making old school diapers. Just stock plenty of the like good diapers if you have room and money to do so. The seventh type of item that preppers should be stockpiling are different types of cleaning supplies. And to start off with, be good to mention bleach. It has a lot of different uses for cleaning surfaces. It can also be used to purify water if you know the correct ratios. And bleach, like liquid bleach, doesn't have the best shelf life, but If you buy stuff called like Pool Shock, it's basically the granulated form of bleach. If you have like the right mixture, then you can use that as a cleaning solution, and then also to purify water in an even smaller amount. Just look that up. There's a lot of resources online that will tell you how to do that the right way. Then also sanitizing wipes. I love sanitizing wipes just because they help preserve your normal water supply. You're not having to use it to mix bleach. You just take it out of a can, wipe it down, and if we learned last year anything about stuff that sells out quickly, sanitizing wipes are definitely on that list. Then stuff like laundry detergent, dish soap, things that you can use to clean stuff that's not you or not people. And then also trash bags. And you want to have some of the bigger heavy duty contractor bags in addition to the ones that you would use in your house anyway. And one item that I don't hear people talking about that maybe you should be stockpiling are things like scrubbing sponges, steel wool, stuff that can actually help you clean stuff. And then also rubber gloves, like the big, thick, almost to your elbow rubber gloves. Those are good to stock up on as well. The 8th type of item that preppers should be stockpiling are paper products, stuff like toilet paper and paper towels. And then also beyond that, wet wipes. And I'm not talking about sanitizing wipes. I'm talking about wipes, maybe like baby wipes, dude wipes, that you can use to give yourself a good wipe down, help you stay clean without wasting an absolute ton of water. Then there's stuff like paper plates, paper bowls, plasticware that you can use to kind of preserve your water storage. And I did another video over how to preserve your water storage in an emergency, and you can find that card there. The 9th type of item that preppers should be stockpiling is anything that you can use to help keep your home or your gear in good shape during the duration of an emergency. And starting off, power tools and hand tools. Power tools help you work quickly during a short-term emergency, and then hand tools help you work for a longer period of time once maybe you aren't able to use your power tools or charge those batteries. Then there's books, things like home repair manuals. If you have pew-pews, armorer's manuals for those. And then stuff like super glue. There's just some types of gear that you're not going to be able to repair with a nail or screw. You need some type of super glue, some type of like really good epoxy. Have those also. And then nails and screws are good to have along with lumber. You can use those to board up windows, repair fences, create fortifications, all sorts of stuff. They're just really good to have. Then there's other things like tape, tarps, plastic sheeting, rope, bungee cords, anything that could help you kind of hang a tarp up somewhere, either for a shelter or to plug a hole either in a window or your roof. And then also, I mentioned plastic sheeting. You can use that to kind of create a greenhouse effect in your home with your windows by covering those. If it's like a winter power outage, that way you're blocking the wind, but you're still letting the sunlight in. And they can also be used if it's kind of like a biological or chemical thing. You can cover your vents, cover your windows, your doors, things like that to keep the bad stuff outside. And then lastly, spare parts. If there's anything like, maybe you have like a tractor, you have a homestead, have spare parts that you know are going to be the things that are most likely to fail. Also, if you have a gas generator, there's stuff like spark plugs, air filters, maybe an extra carburetor, and then instructions for how to replace those parts if it's something a little bit more complicated than just opening a cover, putting it in, and then closing the cover. Those are good things to have on hand as well. And the last, number 10 thing that preppers should be stockpiling is cash. And you want to be sure that you have that in different denominations. You want to have 1s, 5s, 20s, probably not a whole lot of hundreds, just because if there's a situation where maybe there's a power outage, but there's still some sort of like fairly normal commerce happening at like your local stores, then you can use that cash to pay, and you don't have to worry about your debit or your credit cards not working. And then a bonus, it's also a good idea to have some of this in stock as well. Once again, thank you guys for stopping by. I do appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, if you don't mind hitting the like, subscribe, and notification buttons, that would be awesome. I hope to see y'all back. Y'all have a good one.